We've talked quite a bit over the fall semester about what the grad profile is, but I'm going to still go through and give a quick brief overview of that. So the Kentucky Graduate Profile was established in 2021 when Dr. Aaron Thompson, the president of CPE, said that he wanted Kentucky to be the first state to really stand out and making sure that our students have the essential skills necessary for whenever they graduate. So this was an effort that started out with the different universities across campus, and then a year later they ended up bringing in the community colleges as well. And so we meet every semester multiple times and also do some individual meetings with CPE where we're looking at what other institutions are doing with these essential skills. And every state institution in Kentucky is working right now on including these 10 essential skills into their curriculum and at a university-wide level. So that's really where the graduate profile starts from. So I'm going to show you, here's the 10 essential skills. You've seen them probably multiple times. I'm not going to go through those. But these are the skills that we've been talking about. We did get a question this morning if all of the language and everything has changed. This is the most current. We're hoping this is the language that will stay for these essential skills, and all of the information that we have out. Our website and everything now reflects all of the language. I'll also see you've probably heard employability skills before. That's now been dropped to just the 10 essential skills. So why skills? So yesterday, Dr. Thompson came and we actually met with CPE yesterday as part of the Kentucky Graduate Profile. And as part of that, Dr. Thompson came and spoke to everybody, and he kept using the two words, why and relevance. And so why these skills? Because employers are coming back and saying that students are not always as academically prepared with these essential skills that they need whenever they graduate. And so we really want to make sure that our students understand the relevance of higher education and how having these skills will make them ready for the workplace after they graduate. That's also in the workplace, that's in interviewing for jobs whenever they do graduate. And so we really just want to make sure that we're being really transparent. We know that faculty are already doing this in their classes, but we really want to make sure that students understand that by completing this assignment or by taking this class, I have gained the skills that that will help me use information to make decisions. I have completed this assignment or this presentation, and it has given me additional skills to help me communicate effectively. So we really just want to drive down and be transparent with these essential skills. And CPE is making this a requirement for all institutions in Kentucky as well. And so this is just a look at what our graduate profile team looks like here at EKU. We started out originally with just 3 members, and now we've grown to almost 30 people that are participating as part of this. So you can see over on the left side is the Kentucky Graduate Profile team. You'll see that every college is represented by at least one person. Class is really heavy right now because right now our primary focus is general education, and a majority of our general education classes fall under class. But still, there is representation from each of the 6 colleges. You'll see the word liaison on certain people. They are like the main point of contact with that college where you can go back. They're sharing information from the CPE meetings, from graduate profile meetings, and they're able to take this information back to your colleges, and so you can share that information with your departments as well. We also have representation from EKU libraries, as well as the Office of Advising and Career Services as well. On the right side, you'll see essential skill leads, and these are faculty who have been identified as experts for these certain skills. So you'll see Dr. Krista Kimmel is at the top. She is our lead of leads. So she is the one that is in the direction of overseeing all of our skill leads. And then you can see various names for each of those skills. So for example, for skill 1, you'll see John Strada and Dr. Dom Ashby. So John Strada is the one that's taking over for the oral presentation part, or the oral communication, and then Dom's more over the written communication portion of those. And so these skill these skill leads are going to be the main point of contact for each of these skills, but then we're also in the process of identifying additional skill experts that will also be able to provide additional support. And I'll explain a little bit more about when that part's going to be extremely relevant. So this is the professional development series. Welcome to the kickoff. We're so excited that you all are here for this. Like Rusty mentioned, we sent this out to deans, associate deans, chairs, program coordinators specifically for these sections because we wanted to make sure that everybody, one, understood what our plan was, but we can also help you understand what our plan is for the rest of this spring semester. We really want to try to put resources in place to help faculty be able to implement this in their general education classes. So you can see we're doing the kickoff sessions today and tomorrow. Then there's going to be homework after today, by the way. So one of that is going to be looking at skill 10. So all gen ed classes will have skill 10 as one of the skills that they will assess. And Allison will go over that in more detail. But every gen ed course will have skill 10, and then they will also have an additional skill that they'll have to also assess for. But since everybody has to do skill 10, we thought, why not go ahead and set this up where everybody's working on the same thing since everybody has to. And then the second half of the semester is when you'll get additional support for the additional skills. So our hope is that for the next session, starting next week, you will come in with an assignment that you already use in one of your general education classes, and you'll bring it and be able to work through it to go ahead and add these additional pieces in for the essential skills. This morning, we got several questions about, do you need to come up with a completely new assignment for the essential skills? No, we are really encouraging you to go ahead and use an assignment that you already have that you can adapt to incorporate these essential skills into. So next week, we'll start off with backward design. Again, hoping that they'll bring the assignment in. Everybody will, the rest of these are going to be more like workshops. Those will not be recorded. They will be in person. But we want you to come in with that assignment, and then the backward design will take place for that assignment. Then the following week, we're going to be looking at assessments, and that will have assessment pieces and rubric pieces. So, bring that assignment back that you already worked on the backward design. Then you'll be able to ask questions and be able to see what that would look like for the assessment component, as well as what the rubrics could look like. And there'll be support in here to be able to answer questions specifically for your assignments. The following week, we'll go into tilt. So at that point, you've already done backward design, you've looked at your assessment piece, then you're ready to tilt your assignment. And so then you should have a really good track on where you are for this specific assignment. And then the following dates, you'll see the last two are pending. That's because we're going to see which dates are going to work best for everybody. But we are going to break it down. The first one will be incorporating a skill 10 into the different elements. So if you are element 1, we're going to have a workshop that everybody from element 1 would come to. We're going to do one for element 2, element 3, element 4. If you can't attend the one that's designed for your element, obviously you're able to attend those other ones. But again, we wanted to make it a little bit smaller. Those are going to be led by the library, who are our skill leads for information literacy. And so there will be people in here to help you make the final adjustments that you need for your assignment for skill 10. Then we're going to take a break for spring break. Then we're going to give a little bit of time and then come back about a month later, and then it'll be the opportunity to look at your other skill that you have. So for example, somebody was talking about that they have skill 7. So what should they do for that one? What kind of assignments can they do for that one? What kind should they even be looking at? So we've already kind of told them this morning, go ahead and start thinking about assignments that you can use. At this point, everybody will have already done these different steps for at least one assignment. And then they'll be able to go back and do those steps on their own, but then they can come back and they'll be able to get support for specifically skill 7, because we will have those workshops broken down to smaller, and we'll make sure that those skill leads and those skill experts are there. I know that was a lot of trying to explain, but we did get some questions on that this morning. But the idea is let us help you. If you all will participate in this process by the end of the spring semester, hopefully you will have both of your assignments done that you will need with the assessment pieces before the spring semester is even over, and you'll have the support that you need in that process. So, statewide scale implementation. We've heard statewide scale implementation, and before we weren't sure exactly what that meant. So this is the information that we got yesterday from CPE. So we know that they have wanted the essential skills embedded into general education, and then we kept hearing at the program level by 2028. Yesterday, we got this communication, and I don't love reading straight from the slides, but I'm going to because I want to make sure that everybody gets these pieces. So institutions are to develop strategies to increase the scope and scale of their graduate profile activities while CPE focus on aligning state policies with the 10 essential skills. Implementation includes revise and create policies and practices to help ensure that every student is equipped with the 10 essential skills regardless of major. Develop communication strategies to ensure that all faculty, staff, and students understand the 10 essential skills. Create curriculum maps for each academic program and co-curricular activity. Include the 10 essential skills throughout general education and majors. Develop as assessment strategy to evaluate students' ability to demonstrate the skills that they have gained, including signature assignments to assess milestone and capstone levels of mastery of each of the 10 essential skills, and to ensure resources for faculty to help embed the essential skills into their courses. So we're going to get several questions, I know, about this assessment pieces whenever it comes to the program level. I will go ahead and say we do not have all the answers of what it looks like at the program level yet. Right now, our main focus is getting these 10 skills embedded and implemented into general education. We do still welcome your questions because that will help us figure out exactly what we need to do to prepare you all. But by 2028, this will happen in all general education classes as well as at the program level. So we want to go ahead and let everybody know this so people can start planning, especially things like the curriculum maps and what that might look like for the various programs. So with that, here's our timeline. So this past fall, there was general education changes and the revised element structure. Again, this spring, we are focusing on the professional development, on getting these skills integrated for general education. This fall, we're hoping for that full implementation into our general education classes based on this process that we're using this spring. Next spring, and for 27 and 28, will be that university-wide support for the essential skills at the program level. And then by fall of 28, we'll have to have that full institutional implementation into the essential skills. I am going to turn it over to Allison.
Thank you, Star. Hi, I'm Allison Buck, and I'm usually louder than this. So this is what the skill mapping throughout the elements within the new essential education element structure look like. This came out of an enormous amount of work by a number of faculty-led bodies with a lot of input from various stakeholders. What you can see here is that we have all 10 skills somewhere in the gen ed curriculum. We are assessing 2 in GSD, which just takes a little pressure off of the gen ed element areas. All the other ones are present in at least one place, and you can see that every single element is looking at skill 10, use information for decision making. So we've got the skills mapped now, but what do we do next? How do we actually implement this? What does it look like to teach these and to assess these? So we have an enormous amount of expertise in assessing the SAC-COC competencies. You all probably are still recovering from the STAR reports that were due February 1st. we have all kinds of institutional support for that. This PD series is a way of equipping faculty to fold in the essential skills into that assessment process, into their teaching, with the most seamless process we can achieve. All right. So assessing the essential skills. We have, again, 2 essential skills per element. We also have 2 competencies. How will that look when we get to assessment time? We can stack a skill and a competency. I'm sure you all are very familiar with what your competencies are right now. It's probably very fresh in your mind. An essential skill can be stacked on top of that. You can take an existing assessment instrument. I've did the UPAC reviews just recently, and I know that there's all kinds of really cool papers, projects, assignments that folks use to assess the competencies. We're looking for ways to fold in an essential skill into some of those existing assignments. Now, if you're really interested in developing new assignments, we're not going to stop you. But our recommendation is let's fold it into what we already have. Let's build on what we have. This means 2 assignments per element the course occupies, other than flex. So flex being our area where it's an elective area. Students can take anything out of that area. There's no assessment requirement for that. But whatever element the course is in, that's about 2 assignments. We do have some courses we know who are occupying multiple elements. All 3 essential skills and 4 competencies will need to be assessed in that case. Okay. And we've seen this before. We're trying to get these aligned, right? The assessment, the essential skills being aligned with competencies through this. So another aspect of this assessment of folding in these skills, it's not just one size fits all with these skills. We have gen ed courses at the 100 level to the 400 level. We have gen ed courses that run the gamut. We have students who are first-year students are obviously in the gen ed courses, but I'm sure you've all taught a gen ed course and had a senior in that class. They waited until that semester to take that particular gen ed. We sometimes have expert higher level learners. So the levels of mastery framework looks at the level at which we can expect the student to perform the skill. It's not just the skill. Is it just that they need to understand the basics of the skill? Benchmark, novice. This is going to be this kind of level, and this level will be the majority of gen ed. That's where we'll see the majority. So understanding the basics, actually doing the task effectively. The milestone or competent level. This is expected more for juniors, sophomores. We can also put these in terms of like, what are the courses where the skill is introduced? Where is it reinforced? And then where is it mastered? So it will be thinking about the skill, thinking about how to assess it, but also thinking about how to assess it at an appropriate level. So what benchmark is appropriate for each course? What's the level of the course? Do seniors tend to be in this course? Is this a course that tends to be populated by first-year students? If you think about HEA 310, which is Introduction to Global Health, the element-specific skill there is communicate effectively. Do most students who come into that course, have they already taken English 101? So would it be appropriate to say this is being reinforced here rather than introduced at this level? So those are some questions that we'll be asking in order to talk about the benchmarks and talk about where we should be with the skills. All right. Okay. So this looks familiar. I hope it is not, inducing PTSD right now. You've seen this before. The only real change here is that we've got the skill competencies now. We always had the two competencies. Now you've got the skill competencies as well. So how might this look? How might we actually use this when it comes time to report on the way that we've implemented the skills within our courses? So we want to use assignments that really teach the skills. We're not really going far off track of what you're already doing. You are already introducing these skills in your classes. You're already teaching students to use information for decision making. You're already teaching students to communicate effectively, to engage in quantitative reasoning. We know this. This is about making it more explicit. So English 101, an example assignment here. This is a very simplified thing that I did based on a real English 101, but Charlotte Rich didn't tell me that it was wrong, so I'm assuming that's right. Find two non-academic sources on a topic. Identify the type of source, so a news story, a blog post, that kind of thing. Evaluate bias and credibility using the SIFT method, which takes students through evaluating the source itself, comparing it to other sources, tracing the original source of the information, and then explain how the type of source is tied to credibility in the presence of bias. You can see how this skill would assess both using information for decision making, using the SIFT method, using information that they've sought out about the sources, and then also information literacy analysis, looking at the way that the different parts of the source influence how they're able to determine what kind it is, influence the credibility of the information there. And then you've got one skill and one competency assessed. Once you have students complete that assignment, you assess them, you see what their scores are. There you go. And if we stick with English 101, their second element-specific skill would be communicate effectively. And their second competency is rhetorical style, or rhetorical awareness and style. These two are very compatible. You could see an assignment easily that would assess both of these on top of the other. In fact, there's very likely already an assignment in that course and in a lot of these courses that could be used where we fold in the skill to what's already being done. So we have two sessions coming up. As Star mentioned, these are on Tuesday, February 24th and Wednesday, February 25th. And these will actually serve as workshops. These will actually serve as opportunities for faculty to take existing assignments and think about how to align the skills into those existing assignments. Again, we won't stop anybody from making new assignments if they're really excited about that, but the recommendation to address time poverty, assessment burden is let's use what we already have. And I'm going to go ahead and pass this on to my colleague, Dr. Winslow, to talk about something a little more fun than assessment.
Yes, I don't have to talk about STAR reports, thankfully. I'm here to talk about the AI pathway theme that we are introducing at the same time, starting next fall. Some of you have been involved in this, and you've all probably heard about this to a certain degree, but this is running in parallel to the essential skills integration. So we are starting with, we have actually 4 courses that are going to be taught in fall 26 that are pathway courses. But we're also going to have an information session next week on Thursday for any faculty who are interested in developing pathway courses, AI-themed pathway courses. So this information session is going to tell them about what makes a course a pathway course, make it very clear that pathway courses are essential education courses, like to satisfy all the requirements that we've been talking about. So that plus the AI theme, it's going to have those required assessments. That's going to have to go through the same approval process that any essential education, general education course has to go through. We'll talk about those processes as well. But we would really like to cast as wide a net as possible, try and get people from every department, every college who are interested in teaching an AI-themed pathway course. Coming to this session is not a commitment, right? This is come if you're curious. This doesn't lock you into actually developing a pathway course. There will be a pathway course design workshop that will happen after this in March sometime. So people who are still interested in designing a pathway course, we're going to have a much more extensive intense workshop session so we can help people design the most useful course for our students, trying to give students what they really need in addition to the essential skills. So again, it's going to be next week. Please tell your colleagues. We invite you. Tell everybody about it. We'd love to have as many people as possible come. It'll be here in this room, but also virtually. So if people can't make it here, we will probably record it so that we'll be able to push it out to people who can't make that time. And there will be an announcement, I think, on Thursday, an EKU today, and a place to register as usual. Any questions about the pathway, AI pathway theme? All right. Yes. Yeah.
Over another time. I don't know if you mentioned that already, but yeah, I can't. I would like to make it. But
Yeah. I don't think we're going to have more than one time for this, but it will be recorded.
Okay.
And because it's mostly informational, we hope that the recording will be somewhat special. There are probably going to be other, I don't want to call them handouts, but other information that we can provide as well.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm going to turn it back over to Rusty.
Saw it went online, also had the same question. So at the same time that we're moving forward, we're also using this as an opportunity to gather input and to codify the process a bit more as well. I need to credit Dr. Pete Edwards from the School of Education for the work related to the graduate profile and implementation of the essential skills related to backward design. He is a faculty member on the graduate profile team, and it has helped us to shape this content to best suit where we are in implementation, but also to ensure that this is where we need to be in supporting faculty. Many of you are probably already familiar with backward design as a process. To put it plainly, it's beginning with the end in mind. Faculty, of course, are highly skilled at designing courses, and we want to continue that and to build on it. The part that is new, however, is implementation or integration of the essential skill into that course. So backward design is a process that we'll use that is in no way, shape, or form new. It's been around for many years and has a good deal of research behind it, but it's an intentional process that we'll use to support faculty in redesigning or designing courses to teach the 10 essential skills, or to integrate the 10 essential skills, or the essential skill for that particular program. Backward design involves three related stages. One, determining learning goals and objectives. This is where faculty member will define what learners should know or to be able to do by the end of the course. And the new part is how to incorporate the focus on that particular essential skill. That is, how will we incorporate the skill, how that faculty member, what are some strategies to teach that skill, and how can we ensure that our learners are not only learning that skill at a surface level, but are learning that skill at a deep and transferable level. So if we think about the many benefits for our students in learning essential skill number one, which is communication, or even collaboration and work in teams, or critical and creative thinking, we can also think about the benefits to our classroom or our learning environments if our students are adept and able to practice these essential skills in the course that you're teaching now, courses in the future, in general education, courses at the program level, and then of course, what we are seeing now is an increased emphasis and a focus on students or graduates being able to show or demonstrate that they have these essential skills in their chosen professions or in their chosen career paths. So that transferability is really key to the process. We'll work with faculty design assessments. This complements what Allison shared earlier about kind of institutional assessments. For backward design, this is more aligned with designing or redesigning learning assessments. This is how we understand the extent to which students have learned and also are able to demonstrate goals and objectives related to the learning assessment and also that essential skill. This might mean that a faculty member is completely redesigning or implementing a new learning assessment, but it does not have to be that intensive of a process. As Star mentioned, many faculty, and we're hearing this quite a bit, even from chairs, many faculty are already doing this. And so this is an opportunity to think intentionally and transparently about what we're teaching and how we can design learning assessments to best align with and support the essential skill and to support where that faculty member, where that program or the department is taking that essential skill. This can be high stakes assessment, but it does not have to be. It can be a low stakes learning assessment as well. Our goal is to reduce barriers to implementation and to make the process as impactful as possible, but also as efficient as possible for faculty and for programs or courses in and across general education. And then finally, we'll look at planning learning activities, those that support the learning assessments and the learning goals and objectives of backward design. So faculty are probably going to come to these sessions at in different places. Some of this might be a reminder or looking closely at how to incorporate the essential skill at the course level. But through these sessions, ideally, we're able to support faculty where they are and to provide the support to get them and all of us where we need to go by the end of the spring, and then of course fall 2026. All right. So with that, unless there are any questions on backward design, we're happy to answer them. And also, Dr. Edwards has been amazing at helping us to transfer this to the graduate profile. So I'd encourage conversations with him as well. So with that, Trina Napier is up next to talk about EKU libraries and essential skill number 10.
Best and worst. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Trina Napier. I am the Director of Teaching and Learning for EKU Library. So that's the team of librarians that if you've had a class come for library instruction, my team is probably the person who provided that library instruction for you. And those are the librarians who interact most often with students around information literacy. So what I want you to take away from here today is a couple of things. One, the library is here to support you in this. We are accustomed to supporting students and you in your coursework with information literacy, and we are committed to continuing to do that. I want to provide you with a few ideas and thought provokers. If you're thinking to yourself right now, I don't know if I really have that information literacy assignment. I want to give you a few examples of what an information literacy assignment can be. It doesn't have to be that traditional research paper that you might be used to or your students might be used to. And I want to provide you with a few resources where you can look for additional assignments as well, maybe to get ideas of how you could extend or change or morph an assignment that you already have. So early in the presentation, Allison alluded to, kind of talked about a sort of entry-level information literacy assignment in English 101 It's this idea of using SIFT, which is an evaluation technique, to evaluate sort of popular sources and kind of give students just an introduction to that. So I wanted to share an example with you that looks at that in both a disciplinary way, but also in a way that kind of scales it up a little bit and makes it more appropriate for that student at maybe the reinforce or even mastery level. So this assignment's based upon a activity I did with students in a, I think it's English 303, and it's the course that students take to learn to teach writing. So for them, I wanted them not to just kind of generically assess and analyze something. I wanted them to think about their discipline, think about going into a classroom and evaluating what they would do in a classroom ultimately. So what I asked them to do is think about how they evaluate starting out to kind of set a baseline. And then I asked them to read an article where someone who teaches composition talks about writing pedagogy, different techniques that instructors use in a classroom to teach students how to write, and his experience and opinion of those strategies. I asked them to identify those things, and then I asked them to start looking in the established research literature through library databases to start kind of tracking down what is that technique, what is the research behind it, and is this author who's writing about it, whose kind of op-ed piece I read, is he representing it appropriately? Is what he's saying backed up in the research? Is it challenged in the research? Are his statements on these techniques based upon that research, or are they based upon his experience in a classroom anecdotally? And kind of have them break down through that. And then once they have done that, I ask them to go back to that initial, how do you evaluate information, and sort of think about how maybe now they've changed in terms of how they evaluate information, what the value is of kind of stepping outside of a source and looking at information about that source as well. And then these are just some kind of real quick thought provokers. So you have kind of a more in-depth example that I kind of handed out on paper that's also available digitally through this slideshow. But I want to give a few quick thought provokers here. So one, letter to an editor where students have to actually go find the peer-reviewed evidence and they have to represent it to a general audience, right? Newspaper or letter to the editor. Advocacy letter, this is actually an assignment that's already existing in WGS 201. So this is an assignment that could just walk straight into information literacy essential element 10. And I also linked the research guide that the library created to support students in honing the skills that they need for this particular assignment. And if you look at the research guide, you'll kind of see more specifics about the assignment as well. Deep dive interview prep, right? So students actually researching a company or an industry as if they were going to prepare for a high stakes interview. Multi-perspective news reporting, have students write a newspaper story about an event, about something happening on campus, and then compare those stories with their classmates so that they kind of get a look into how different people's backgrounds and perspectives might influence the way that they write about a particular event or activity, right? We would be remiss if we didn't acknowledge AI in the information literacy landscape, right? So asking students to take their own thesis, put it into AI and ask AI to act as a devil's advocate against their argument and to back up the breakdown of the student's argument with evidence, and then ask the student to go find those sources that AI gave it. Are they real sources? If they are real sources, did the AI represent the argument of the source appropriately, right? And so they kind of learn how to do that interrogative research and to push back against an argument and to challenge their own argument as well. And then things like statistical fact checks, where you ask a student to find some data, a graph, a pie chart that's being put out on news media, online, social media, print media, and go back and find that data in the original source. Because very often those real quick news pieces are citing some real research somewhere, but are they citing it appropriately? Are they manipulating that data? And kind of think about what that means, how statistical spin can kind of be used to influence us. And then finally, just some resources for you. So as Star was saying, we're really encouraging you to bring in an assignment you already have. But if you're not entirely sure that you have one, or you're kind of curious how one you have that's almost there could get there, the first link here is the ACRL Literacy Sandbox. repository of assignments, activities, that sort of thing. It's searchable by type, by skill, by discipline. Same thing for Cora there. Again, assignments, searchable by type, skill, discipline. And then I also want to remind you that you have the library here. We can do individual research assignment consultations. You could reach out to your library liaison if you're used to working with someone in your area. If your person doesn't really teach necessarily, you could reach out to me and I could put you together with someone who kind of has more classroom experience. And then finally, I just linked out to the library's information literacy learning outcomes, kind of what we use to guide our assessment of our own instruction in your classes. And that's mapped to the ACRL framework, which will kind of give you a more nuanced look at information literacy and kind of give you some ideas about what things outside the norm might allow you to kind of address the information literacy skill. So that's it.
All right, so we're doing perfect on time. So again, kind of going back to the homework, Trina did a really great job of showing some different examples of what those different types of assignments could look like. Again, the reason we wanted to focus on skill 10 is because that's what these workshops are really going to focus on. She's talking about doing those individualized sessions, but also some of those workshops that we're going to be doing the end of March are going to have people from the library also in here helping do that. So again, we're trying to bring some of this stuff to you. So if you or somebody in your department has not registered for these sessions and you think that they would be beneficial, please let them know. I think it depends on what each department is doing. We use English as an example this morning. For English 101, likely one person is going to complete that, determine that assignment. Everybody in English 101 will have the same assignment. That might look different for different departments. Some departments might leave it up to their faculty to come up with these individual assignments to be assessed, but that will be a decision that's made at the program level. I know we've had concerns about if there's people who are adjunct or adjunct faculty. So again, it could be beneficial for a program to develop assignments within certain courses to be used for all those courses. And then it could also make it a little bit easier for the assessment piece whenever it comes along to that. So if you think somebody that is not here would benefit from coming to these sessions, please share this information. And then also start thinking about skill 10 assignments that you could bring. We also have, you could go ahead and start thinking about that other skill that you're going to have to do. Bring that along too. So as you're working through the backwards design, the tilt, the assessment pieces, you can go ahead and be looking at the other assignment that you might use for that other skill and be able to ask specific questions. But then again, at the end of April is when we'll have some workshops that are specific to those skills. So I got two QR codes. One is to register for the remaining sessions. The other is the QR code to our EKU graduate webpage or graduate profile page. On there, you will see it links straight to CPE's Kentucky graduate profile. So if you want some specific information about what they have about the essential skills, we also have a list of all of our members on there. We also have newly created videos for all 10 skills. I would encourage you, if there's a skill that you're using for one of your elements, to go in and watch these videos. They were made by our faculty. They're fantastic, but they give also examples of what assignments can look like in various classes and how to really try to make these, to implement these skills into your courses for your students. Also, at the bottom of the webpage, you will see resources. That has links to backward design. It has links to levels of mastery, but the very last one under resources is a Q&A document. That document has questions that we've received since we've started having these conversations and since we had put out that we're doing this kickoff. It has some assessment questions and answers in there. It also has the link to this presentation, and it also has a link to which skill your element is aligned to as well. So we did that as a document so we can go in and continue to update as people continue to ask questions. So now the floor is open. What questions do you all have? Steve?
Yeah, where would we find the document that lists the second
Skill.
So that is in that Q&A document. It's like halfway down, you'll see one that says like, where do I find my skill aligned with my element? And there's a link for you to click on it. It pulls up the document. And we can also find it for you too, if you need us to. Hey, Don.
So I have an assessment star report related. Oh, yeah. Hey, so I have an assessment and star report related question. So since we're moving from previously in previous cycles, the star report we've had the assessment instrument, and we could have the same instrument would sometimes have both, or would often have both of the competencies on here, right? But now we're moving to where we need to have two instruments, and each instrument can have one competency and one skill,
Right.
correct? All right,
Yes.
so, and I'm just thinking here, so if we're continuing to use as one of those, if we're using the old instrument that we have been using, we just need to decide which of the two competencies we had been looking at from that and only look at one of them then from our assessment and then add in the new skill to it. Is that right? So like, for example, for English 102, we've been looking at both of our competencies in the portfolio that students are turning in. So going forward, though, we could look at that same, but we would only look at one of the competencies and we look at one of the skills in the portfolio. And then we'd look somewhere else for the other competency and the other skill.
That would be one way to approach it. I think another way to approach it might be to take an assignment that's like more complex because it has more than one competency in it, and thinking about ways to break that out into two, to scaffold it in some way where it's still working towards, greater learning outcomes, but now it's in two pieces,
Okay.
one of which assesses.
So scaffolding could work, right?
Yes.
Because like, again, I think the portfolio is a great example because that's scaffolded from the very beginning of the semester. Everything students are doing is building toward that. So we could snapshot that, let's say, at the middle of the semester as assignment 1.
Right.
And then snapshot the finished one at the end as assignment 2, even though it's actually all drawing from the same thing. Is that?
I think that would work as long as it's clear that, yeah, you're evaluating different pieces throughout this. I think I would have to look at the assignment
Okay, sure.
to see for sure. But yeah, I think so. And again, with like something like a portfolio is complex, right? There are different pieces to it. So if there's a piece of it that could be assessed for one competency and one skill, and another piece that could be assessed.
Okay, yeah, and we could definitely do that too, because we have, the portfolio has a reflective element, so we could separate that off as one thing, and then we could have the artifacts as another piece of it.
Right.
That would, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's great, because in
Okay.
a way, that's actually how we've been looking anyway, because we've been looking at different places in the portfolio for the different competencies anyway. So this would just be a slightly more formal separating of those.
Yes. I think that's you're probably not unique in that. A lot of people have an assignment that's been assessing two competencies, but really it's been this part assesses this and this part assesses. Yeah. So it's just a matter of decoupling that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. I feel
Yeah.
relieved.
Good. I'm glad. Other questions related to assessment, the PD series? I hope people are taking advantage of the delicious charcuterie board and the caffeine outside.
We've handled the questions in chat. One was related to a direct link to the resources and registration.
Okay. One thing to add as well as part of the registration pieces, if there's something that you need specific for your department or you think it could be useful, you could also go to FCT&L and also do a request to have department level meetings for these as well. We've already had one department, two departments. We've already had two programs. Yeah. Do that. So again, we want to try to make this as easy, as seamless as possible. we know we have to work towards this implementation for general education. And so we want to try to be able to support you through that process this spring. Then we can work on figuring out what worked, what didn't work, so we can continue to do this at the program level as we move forward.
A quick question, the slides are also linked in the documents.
In the Q&A,
So
yes.
we did get a question about access to the slides. I know that there's a lot of information there, but the slides are also available as a resource that you can share. You will see the Q&A there as well. The reason that we set it up in Drive is because we're regularly gathering questions from faculty and then adding those questions and adding those responses. So rather than a website, we wanted to create a living document that was responsive to the questions that we're getting so that everybody has the access to the most recent info.
And again,
Well,
that's the link that's at the bottom of the resources. It's the last one.
As you continue to have conversations though in your departments and with your programs, if it would be beneficial to have a member or several team members from the graduate profile come to your department or to have individual conversations, just know that some of those requests have already come through. So that could be a way to look at a specific course or to have a conversation with faculty in your department. We're happy to do that if that would be beneficial.
And if you have a quick question that is not covered in some of the resources we've already, please send it to us. We will add more. As you send us cues, we will add days.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming this afternoon, and we look forward to seeing you at the other sessions.
Thank you all.
Seeing.
Session tomorrow morning is essentially, it's just.
It's exactly the same.
Sure, people go to both.
Yeah.
Yeah.